definitely. Shufaay, can you hear us? Good evening again. If you can hear us, feel free to come in.
Good evening, Tam for me. Good evening, WirfonCloud family. It's good to be here.
Great, great. We are very happy to have you. And again, congratulations. I know we have not yet mentioned this on your title. So Shufaay, great work you've been doing. And then most especially, Shufaay has also been as WirfonCloud ambassador because he plays a big role having succeeded here at WirfonCloud. He keeps pushing the message of what WirfonCloud is all about and trying to bring with more people over here. So we are very happy to have you as definitely not as alumni. You are still always here with us. It's great. So I know that you're many, as you see, there are lots of new faces, but will you mind to just introduce yourself briefly before we get started for others to know you?
All right. Thank you, Tam for me, Banjika. Good evening, afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of WirfonCloud. As our moderator has rightly said, I am a bona fide child of the house. I recently became Shufaay, which is something that came out of the blue. I'm still trying to fit into the into this new way of life. But that said, I am Shufaay Wo Kibèèy. I am resident here in Houston, Texas, in the United States of America. Professionally, I'm a senior cloud engineer working for one of the contractors for the Department of Defense. I have been with them for 1 year and 3 months now. And prior to that, I used to work in oil and gas for about 9 years or so in the Middle East. And then I moved here in 2018, continued there before I eventually moved to cloud with the help of WirfonCloud. I'm also a family person. I'm married to my beautiful Wiba Joycelyn, and we're blessed with 4 children, 3 boys and a girl.
Great, great. Thanks. We're so glad to hear that. And you just mentioned oil and gas. Some people here again who don't have this background in IT, maybe you may want to share how you got into cloud computing and what motivated you to pursue this career path.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I moved to the United States in 2018, the oil and gas industry wasn't doing very good. It was one of those turmoil moments for the sector. And I was looking for alternatives, but I did not, at the time, I did not imagine myself moving the direction of IT. And so as fate would have it, I have a friend who is a friend and brother who is in California. I'm sure some of you still remember him. He was part of WirfonCloud when we started. Shufaay Wo Kibèèy, he was one who introduced me to WirfonCloud. I took, out of curiosity, I took interest, attended the first few sessions, and that has been the journey for me ever since. That laid the foundation for my journey in IT. I remember the beginning was not easy at all. Sometimes I would be at work and have my headphones listening to presentations from other Wifon students who were studying together. I remember Milam Yvonne, Lady Nyeyu, Edmond, Dr. Vero. We did a lot of stuff together, and I think that was what really got me started. But to tell you the truth, I think the kick for me, what really let me understood that this was the part for me, was when I wrote my practitioner exam. I remember I think I had just come out of the exam hall, and I think I received a call from you, Tam, for me, and you called me to ask how the exam went. And I was telling you that I don't know yet, because at the time, the AWS had changed how they were grading, because prior to that, before at the moment you finish and submit, you would know exactly if you passed or not. But just around a week when I was writing, that changed, and you only get the result about a couple of hours later. And so I was a little bit nervous. I was just wondering what was going to happen. And so a couple of hours went by, and then the results came to me, and I passed. And that was it for me. I was like, if I could do this, then I think there is hope for me somewhere. And so that really kicked off the my cloud journey, and it's been forward, but it's been forward ever, backward never, ever since then.
Yeah. No, that's really good, especially just knowing that with one industry not doing well, you decided like, okay, what else can I do, right? And yeah, which is something that most people, we always say that most people have these skills, but they don't realize it. Because just imagine if the oil and gas was doing well, I'm sure you will have still been in oil and gas, right? Not not knowing that you really have some skills that after a year or two of studies, you could come to a position like this. And I think if you can multitask in different areas, I'm sure it makes you discover yourself. It makes you realize,
absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So yeah. So now that I've just touched that, but I know we're going to get talk, but this was kind of you discovering yourself again. Do you want to touch a little bit on that? Now you discover that, okay, you could do this. What has that meant? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that particular experience made me discover myself even a little bit more. Sometimes we have hidden potentials in us, and until you give yourself the opportunity to explore these potentials, you would never really know. I did not know that I could be good in cloud. And one of the things that has really been very rewarding for me is the fact that with this journey, I did not have to amass tuition loans. Studies in the US is very expensive. And going the route that I went with just studying with friends and taking certifications and doing labs and, collaborating with other people here and there really impacted me with knowledge that I would otherwise not have. And doing so at little or no cost, it's something that I really find very, very rewarding. And then I look back and I'm just marveled, and all I can say is thank WirFon first of all, and thank God who has been with me and directing my steps as I go along this journey.
Great. Nice to know that. Well, so that's about at least I think everyone now has a bit into the introduction and know who Shufaay is. But let's get now to what I know many people will be kind of interested in, like your career journey, right? So, I mean, transitioning from oil and gas to cloud, there must have been some challenges that you have faced, and if there are, have you managed to overcome them? Yeah.
Yes, I think the first challenge for me was the fear of the unknown. Even as unstable as the oil and gas sector was at the time, because it's an environment I've been in for a long time, you still feel like you are comfortable there. And so when we are abroad as we are, there is one thing that will always go with us. At the end of the month, there are bills to be taken care of. And so making a leap into a career path where you do not know if there is really something for you there, and if you as a parent you would be able to take care of your family at the end of the day, it was one of the major challenges for me. So so I call it the uncertainty factor. So that was really a major challenge for me. But again, how did I overcome that? I think that one of the ways I did it was through this forum, right? I mean, coming into these meetings and listening to people who started from nowhere and seeing their journey and seeing where they are was very motivating. And so in those desperate moments, the motivations that I got from here, talking to other people and, just making friends with those who were on the same journey with me kind of really made me stay focused, and I was able to overcome that. That for me was a very, very major challenge. And then I think the second challenge for me was the fact that, in a new sector like this, you really need a lot of time to be able to study. for me, that time was not there because you have to balance, not just work, but taking care of family and doing other things by the side. And so it was very difficult. I remember there were days I would have just probably 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and that would be it. But again, those are sacrifices that we have to make, in our today's world to survive. And if that was the cost for me achieving what I have achieved today, I very much not regret it. Yeah.
Very important. You just mentioned you had a challenge of the fear of the unknown, and then which is what many people struggle with. And I hope they can record this. And people are always wondering, will I make it? And as you say, the reason why you study is if it doesn't bring food to the table at the end of the month, it's quite challenging. But will you follow up to say that coming here often did help you make it? So do you want to emphasize the importance of community in a journey like this? Because
Absolutely.
that's what I can hear. Yeah. So that
Yeah,
for those
absolutely.
who are new, who can see that they can value the importance of a community. Yeah.
Absolutely. I would just say that if you are on this journey, whether as an old person who is already embarked on the journey, or you're about to embark on this journey, or you are somewhere in between, the importance of community cannot be emphasized enough. From certifications to studying to prepping for exams, you need people to go with you. And the truth is that you would never know it all. You would never know it all. In fact, I think one of the things that really helped me got through my certifications easy was the fact that I was studying in a community. You had people who were, for example, when we were doing our solutions architect associate exams, I know that when there were questions that came to networking, you had people like Yvonne who would just break it down to you as if you were drinking pap that morning, and it would be so understood, so much so that you will have something to take home with you. So you have people like that who are talented, who are gifted in certain areas of the subject matter that helps you overcome it in such a way that you would not imagine. And so doing that over and over makes you amass so much material, so much knowledge within a short time, and that is only possible within the community. So I know that my case has really been a little bit challenging since I got my job, because I can tell you it's overwhelming. But once in a while, I still do find time to sneak in and see what is going on. But please do not make this journey alone. Join the wagon. Try to, where you are lost, be very vocal, be very participative, and do not be shy. I bet you at the end of the day, you will be surprised at yourself to how much knowledge you have amassed thanks to that community spirit.
Yeah. No, thanks for that. So that validates the need of a community to work in. I see Zalamonyo giving hands clapping on that. So that is confirmation of what that is. Right. So that is it on career journey transitioning. I hope everyone has something to take, especially in that area, right? So community is important. Be participative, right? We really always encourage that. And for people that seek opportunities to do more, we are always ready to help you do that, because when you try to do it alone, it can be not easy. Now, knowing that your role is cloud engineering, I'm sure people would like to know maybe what does your day-to-day work look like? You've been in this role for a year now. So do you want to just get into the day-to-day work as a cloud engineer? What does that involve? And maybe go ahead to talk about the technologies you are working in or specialize them. Just go ahead, let's hear. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that's a very important question. So I work in, like I said, our company works for the Department of Defense. So we deal with very, very sensitive information. So I have a security clearance, which means that the information I access is very sensitive. And the moment I access it, they know when I access it, they can pinpoint my location immediately. And the reason for this is because in the past, the United States has been a victim of, how do I call it? Information has gone into the wrong hands. We know the Julian Assange story. We know the Bradley Manning story. And so security is very tight. So as I'll be discussing this, I may not go too detailed because there is, there is just so much I can talk about that.
Yeah.
But yes, so my generally, let me start what we do generally. In our team, we are about 16 of us in the team. And so what we do is we design and then we build. We design and build. And so when there is a project, when a project has been put to us, it is given to us with the team. We sit, we analyze it, we go through it, we look at the components. Maybe it's gonna need 20 databases, it's gonna need 200 servers, whatever those requirements are. We spread it among the team and then we build it. Then when we build it, there is a different team that is going to maintain it. So our job is getting the design, building it, and then giving it to another team for maintenance. But because I am also very versed with knowledge of Docker and Kubernetes, I also manage our Kubernetes cluster. So I am the Kubernetes cluster administrator, in addition to doing the design and build for our infrastructure. And then together with another four guys in the team, we also built and deployed our GitLab. The GitLab that we are using was built by us. It's built by us and is maintained by us. So because we do not use a community GitLab. So this is the GitLab we're using is internal, is built by us, is maintained by us. And so on a day-to-day basis, my priority is making sure that the cluster is running. If there are issues, we troubleshoot, and making sure that the GitLab is also up and running. So yeah.
Okay. So I'm coming back to you, Cedric. I see you have your hand up. So I hear you do the designing and the building, then handing over to definitely operations, and then also handling, should I say, incident management and maybe change management, right? Maybe trying to see if there are any necessary changes to be done, how that should be executed. You've mentioned you're working on Docker and Kubernetes. Which other skills do you think are necessary for this role that you're using on a daily basis? You also mentioned GitHub. Which other skills do you find yourself touching? Yeah.
I would say that scripting is very important. Scripting and generally just Linux. You should be really very, very good with Linux, because Linux is like one of the most used systems out there, so I would say that you should have at least 1 or 2 scripting languages at your fingertips and really be versed with Linux. It doesn't matter the flavor, because the changes in terms of what command you run in each of the Linux flavors really doesn't change much. So
no, good. Happy you are mentioning Linux. We are starting the Linux class on the 10th of October. Yes. And remember, when you did all these studies, WirFon was not offering Linux classes yet. So those started now, they are much in a much better foot. They are able to do Linux, and we realize how fundamental this knowledge is. So so I hope everyone can hear that at least Linux is one of the key skills that is to have if you're thinking of cloud engineering. You've heard about Docker and Kubernetes, and for those who have not heard about that, those steps will come later on, and we'll talk about that as well. But I noticed, Cedric, you had your hand up. If you have a particular question you want to come in, as I say, let's make this friendly conversation. So Cedric, come in if you want to ask a question.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for the opportunity you gave me to ask my question. I wish to ask Shufaay that in your environment you made mention of doing the design and doing a build. So I wish to ask what build tool do you use to do your build in your environment? Like the build you use to do your builds in your environment.
So there are two ways we do our build. There is the manual and there is the autonomous. With the autonomous, we are using Terraform infrastructure as code. And with the manual, because sometimes some of those systems are very complex. And also we work, the cloud environments we use, they are not the regular cloud environments that everyone uses. So we are limited just to the government cloud. So when you come to like Azure, there is a portion of Azure that is assigned only to the government. And that is what we use. And so the rules in those clouds are completely different in deploying certain systems compared to how you would do in the general cloud. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, sir. Thank you. You answered my question, but I have another question again.
Okay.
In your environment, I wish to know when you deploy your application, what are some of the problems you encounter in deploying your application, and how you manage to solve those problems?
Okay.
Go ahead, Shufaay. Okay.
All right. So in deploying applications, I can tell you that there, even if you deploy 100 applications smoothly, there's always going to be that one time where you are faced with problems. But the thing is, because our applications do not just live from development to production, right? It lives from production to probably about three other staging environment, three other staging stations before it ever gets to production. And so those problems are resolved between development and by the time it gets to QA and production. So we give ourselves enough room to make sure that there are no issues by the time an application is ready to be, to go online.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I think just Cedric, I hope you got that. I know. So there's always the development, the staging before production. You may have those names differently, but definitely, as Shufaay says, you always have three different stages or three environments before you can ever go live. So, but what I want us to touch a little bit there, since we are talking about what technologies do you work with, Shufaay, you mentioned Azure, and interestingly, you did AWS here at WirfonCloud. I know you touched this in your first video, but what would you say about after knowing AWS and then getting into a job where you are working with Azure? How can you how can you say that transition from AWS to Azure is, and what input have you done to be comfortable? I'm asking this because just to let people understand that maybe after knowing one cloud well, transitioning could be possible, but I'll allow you answer that, so that I don't answer it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Tam, for me. So the transition was a little bit challenging, but I can tell you that it went on good for me. One thing you should know about cloud is that almost all these cloud platforms, the operation is essentially the same. An EC2 instance, even though it's not called an EC2 in Azure, it's called in Azure, the naming conventions are very simple. They just call it, for example, a virtual machine. And it does exactly what an EC instance would do in AWS. And so when you understand that most of these technologies, they have tools and services that operate almost in a similar way, and the major difference is just the fact that they are hosted by different cloud providers. That makes the transition a little bit easier. But again, for me, I was recruited on the basis that I will get certain certifications within the first 6 months of joining the company. And so I was able to do that. I took the AZ 900, which is like equivalent to like the practitioner certification in AWS. Then I took the AZ 104, which is the Azure Administrator. And then I took the AZ 305, which is the design and build. And currently I'm probably gonna take the AZ 400, which is the DevOps, the Azure DevOps certification. So these certifications have really helped me kind of position myself within the new environment. And in fact, I'm beginning to forget some of the stuff I studied in AWS because we are really heavily invested in Azure. But yes, for me, it has been, staying on my game. It's one certification after the other. I'm not stopping. And also because for us, it's a requirement. At the end of the year, you have to prove that you have improved yourself. That we have something called a compensation package, which is incumbent on how you have performed or how you have distinguished yourself from the rest of the team. And so one of the ways of distinguishing yourself is some of those certifications that are relevant, not just to enhancing your personal skills, but the job assignments that you are given at work.
Yeah. No, that's very important, and I'm glad to hear that. And for those who have always wondered, because what we've been trying to push, and we still keep saying, is if you're able to understand one cloud very well, right, you can definitely make it. So if you can, this is Shufaay here. He's a great example. He had but solutions architect associate, got a job in an environment that required Azure. He had to step up in the first 6 months or early on, and he has been able to do that, and he's delivering. So why that is one of the reasons why understanding call it the building blocks of a particular cloud. So be it the compute, be it networking, be it storage, not just approaching it from the aspect of passing the exam, right? But really knowing how those components are, what they do. Once you have that good understanding, you can be able to fit in any other cloud environment. And we are very happy to hear that with the AWS knowledge you had here, you were able to get that job, and then you've been able to keep progressing. So congratulations on keeping with the certifications count. We can only wish you more successes. Nice with that. Yeah. Right. So so that is in the area of technology. We've all heard what the areas Shufaay is working on, right? So but if we were to look into, we'll open up very soon for more conversation, but please feel free to send your questions on chat or put up your hand if there's something you want to share in as well for the benefit. We'll be glad to hear. But maybe Shufaay, I don't know if it's a year. I don't know, that's not much time, but do you have any particular project or achievement that in this one time you've been able to do that looking back, especially being in a field that is completely new to you, is there a project that or achievement that you are like, this has been great? Yeah.
Yes. So when I joined this company, I had two major challenges. The first one, no, three actually. The first one was passing the background check, because since we are working with the Department of Defense, there is a background check, and that background check took forever. It took for about 6 months. The investigation went right to Cameroon and right to Kumbo. Okay. So I was a little bit scared that it might not go through. After 6 months and after about 8 fingerprinting sessions, I was fingerprinted 8 times. And so each time there was a session for fingerprinting, I was, my adrenaline kept going up and up. So after 6 months, the background check went through, and I got my secret clearance, which was a very huge relief at the time. And it was really troubling for me because, while I was kept in limbo for these 6 months, I also had the challenge of doing these certifications that I have been mandated to do within 6 months of joining, but not knowing whether these certifications would even pay off, because if the background check did not go through, then even with these certifications, the company could not retain me. So this was really very troubling. But one certification stood out for me, which was not an Azure certification, because like I said, when you have a secret clearance, there are certain security skills you must have, and that comes with having at least one of the mandatory certifications that the DoD recommends. And in my case, it was the CompTIA Security Plus exam. I don't know if anybody knows about that exam. Not very many write it and pass in their first attempt. So all of this I had to do within the first 6 months. And this particular certification was like one that really got my brain cells beating each other up. And there were times I felt like giving up. But, you know, cutting the long story short, I did what I could. I wrote the exam. I took it from home, by the way. I took it like 3 a.m. when everyone was asleep. There was quiet at home. It was a proctored exam. And so it lasted for 2 hours. And eventually I passed. And so putting all of this together within 6 months, which were all requirements for me retaining this job, and going through all of them successfully is one major challenge. I cannot even begin to describe how I pulled it off. But yes, it was challenging, but I'm thanking God that I was guided by the Holy Spirit to do it. And with the help of God, I did it.
Excellent. Oh, that's great. Great. It's not always easy coming through certifications. Glad I see many hands up, so we'll be coming to that very soon. But it's not always easy, and I think this just goes to underscore the importance of certifications, right? So I think someone, okay, yeah. So this goes to underscores the importance of certifications, and but apart from passing those certifications, we also still emphasize the need of, I think there's some sort of multitasking there you have to do to get there. So let's go straight to the question, but let me pick this one that before I come to Akwo and Harriet, there's a question that, and I see Juliet says inspiring indeed. So glad to hear this inspiring. So Bertrand is asking a question of, I would like to ask what the market demand for cloud computing looks like up there in the US, and what are the likely possibilities of getting a job after completing the certification exams? I think that's a question which, do you want to just answer that since I've read it? Just go to it, Shufaay, then we go. Yeah.
Yes. So I think there is no direct question to that answer, but I would answer it based on my experience, right? Yes, I'll answer it based on my experience. So there is a lot to be learned about cloud, and it is not true that you must know everything before you are ready for the job market, right? Most of what I know now, I have learned it on the job. But the ability to convince those who are hiring that you are the right person for the job is the first skill you need. I mean, I've seen people who have started working in the cloud with just a practitioner certification and having no IT background at all. You know, so you have people like that. So it is, how do you package yourself? Are you the type of person that, you know, you are more interested in just certifications and you can barely do a lab on your own? You know, are you the kind of person that you have the skills, but you cannot, you know, when the time comes for you to confront a recruiter and explain yourself to them and get the job, you shy away? So all of these have to come together. But I've always said that the certification should be your starting point, and then building the skills as you certify yourself along should be the second, and then learning how to confront the job market is the third. Now, in my case, the way I did it was when I did a self-evaluation and saw that and felt like this was the right time for me to start applying, the first thing I did was change my LinkedIn profile. I completely ransacked it, because remember, I was in oil and gas for almost a decade. So everything about my LinkedIn was oil and gas. How do you transform from that into an IT profile that would attract a recruiter? So in my case, I decided to create a new LinkedIn and suppress the old one. I suppressed the old one. The reason why I did not delete it was because I had a huge following on that one. So I just kind of lied low on that one for 3 months while looking for a job with the new one I made. And the moment I got a job with that new one, I deleted that new one, went back to the old one, updated my profile, and let everything that was oil and gas became IT. And so for me, that was how I did it. But again, it is not, it shouldn't be the same for everybody. But I think that there are some basic things such as certifications, doing labs, doing hands-on, and prepping yourself for interviews. I've always said, I think I said this in my last video here, for those who have watched it. You might always think that it is easy to talk like we're having this conversation now, when it is a job interview. I'm telling you, because sometimes you sit with people who have 25, 30, 40 years of experience in IT. The type of questions they ask you are such that they might make you shit yourself. Sorry for the language. But if you prep yourself, I'm telling you, there is no question that they would ask. Even for those questions they ask you and you don't know, you don't panic, because you must not know everything. Even they themselves asking you the questions don't know everything. And once you have this understanding of how it works, you are really in a good position to get a job, no matter how little you have packaged yourself with.
No, great. Key things you have mentioned there, which we emphasize, hands-on. It's not just having the certifications. That's why we have the hands-on lab on Tuesdays and Fridays. So, and again, Shufaay did this when we were still doing very little on hands-on, but that has been a very great integral part of the WirfonCloud journey now. And we are also happy to have entity data for helping people prepare their LinkedIn profiles, helping people in approaching interviews. So for most of the people who have at least had the solutions architect, I know that the link was sent out for those who want to register. So these key areas, we are, as a community, we keep trying to see how we can bring them in. And we are just touching on those areas which are very, very important. And we hope for those listening, you really take note of these key things. It's not the number of certifications, it is, can you really demonstrate some skills? And skills come from doing labs. And the next part then is, how can you convince so that you can believe as the right person for the job? And there are different ways to do it. So we'll allow, I noticed Akko, your hand was up first just come in, and then after that we'll hear from Grace. So over to you, Akko.
Okay, Shufaay, greetings once again, and it's great to hear from you, hear your inspirational story. And I'm glad that, 12 months down the line, everything is still going well and you're enjoying it. Yeah, so the question that I had for you was on the understanding that we hear a lot about the multi-cloud, about being, organizations, and I dare say that the Department of Defense is no different. So I think the question that I had was that how much of the fact that your ability to work within more than one cloud environment, how big is that in terms of how valuable is that by your recruiters or the people that you work with, that you can work with more than one cloud or with several different clouds at a time, be it, let's say, an on-premises cloud and, let's say, 2 or 3 different public cloud providers. Is that seen as something being very valuable, or is the emphasis that, okay, you should just specialize on one particular type of cloud service provider?
Thank you so much. I think that is a very, very important question. And I think the answer is very straightforward. There is so much value in being able to operate in more than one cloud environment. Like I said, even though we are really heavily invested in Azure, we still have about 20 of our operations in AWS. even though I'm not part of the team that manages those operations, but from time to time we see cooperate. And during those cooperation meetings, when I talk about AWS, you can clearly see the difference from someone who has background in AWS compared to, let's say, my colleagues who are just Azure and do not understand how the AWS environment works. And I think, like I said, one of the reasons I got this job was the fact I was able to convince these people, even though I had no prior knowledge of Azure, I was able to convince them in my interview that even though I had no prior knowledge of Azure, I was a good candidate for them. And one thing I told them was, it doesn't matter what cloud environment is. All the services that function the same. What a load balancer does in AWS is the same thing a load balancer would do in Azure. And so when you go in with this kind of environment, the setup of those services or tools may be different, but the functioning is essentially the same. And so the ease of doing this, backed up by the fact that you understand one or more cloud is really a valuable thing to have. So I would say that it is highly valuable.
Okay, great to hear. So I'd imagine that, before I let you go, so I imagine that these universal tools, such as we have with Terraform, such as we have, okay, well, we're dealing, let's say, with Kubernetes and Docker, the fact that they can work across all the public clouds, if you have that in your tool set, that would greatly be seen as something that would enhance your prospects of either landing these type of jobs or more or less dealing with any kind of situations that arise within the context of the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I could even add that, especially like with jobs in the DoD, because all DoD operate with all of the public, with all of these cloud providers, even though they're, it's a carved section of their clouds, right? But I'm telling you, if you and I were to go in for an interview and you have knowledge of two or more of those clouds, and you are able to demonstrate that, you stand a high chance of being hired than someone who probably has just knowledge in one of those clouds. However, that should not push you to just dive into a new cloud environment because you want to experience that. It should really be something that you are convinced that the timing is right and this is really the route you want to go. If not, while working, you can, if you haven't started working, fine. But if you're already working, I think that is the time to explore other cloud environments that are not part of what you are doing, during your free time. That way, you don't feel like, you are putting in time into something that might not be useful in future,
Okay. Thank you, Shufaay, and wish you all the best in your continuing development and progress in this role. Okay.
Thank you, Akon. Thank you so much. And it was great seeing you again. Hope your own job too is doing well.
Thank you. Yeah.
Not really nice to hear that. So again, nice to hear how to get into that multi-cloud environment. And I like what Shufaay has said, especially for beginners, because at times some people get so overwhelmed, right? Should I do AWS now? Should I do to Azure? Should I do cloud? They're talking about all these things. Where will I start? So please, again, always remember the approach is try to learn one cloud, get so comfortable with it, at least knowing the fundamental blocks very well. And then once you have that opportunity with that coursing for the second cloud, take that advantage and go for it, right? So for absolute beginners, don't be so worried, right? So think again more of, I'm going to do it a step at a time. So, and we always say AWS, because of the community that presents and the following that it has, it's at least this is what we support, and we strongly believe that it's easy to support anyone who is starting from zero, and we have done that with great success rate, especially with the people who are having jobs, right? So nice to hear. So let's hear from you, Grace. Then after that, Telamone, come in, Grace, with your question or comments.
Okay, thank you, Uncle Ben. Good evening, sir, from the United States. My question was, he already answered some of them, because it was like, when he talked of his challenges, he talked of the certificate, he talked of the background check. What I wanted to put in was, it might not be everybody's situation, because when some of us here, like, they have to do background check, you have to do a lot of certifications, you can get afraid. And I from when he talked later, I concluded, like, the situation of his was because of the company he went into.
Yeah.
That's why he had to go through some of those challenges. I don't want to believe that everybody who do cloud architecture or solution architect has to really do all those other certifications before getting a job. Like, we can actually start from zero level to get into, like they call it in Germany, Quereinsteiger. I don't know how they call it in English, like beginner. Yeah. So
absolute beginner.
Yeah, absolute beginner. But he answered some of my questions, so he already gave me an answer of what I wanted to ask, because my question was like, why all this background check? Is this a compulsory for everybody who is coming to the IT world, or is it a compulsory for somebody who is coming as a beginner to have all the certifications? One thing I know about IT is, once you go into it, you don't stop learning until the day you go on retirement, even after retirement, because it's like a continuous learning process. So the certifications is like a lineup that you have to do and not end. But I'm happy he answered my questions, and I am inspired.
Super. Nice
Thank
to hear
you
that.
so much, Grace. Thank you. Yes, my case was very unique because my employer was a contractor of DoD, and they have special requirements for everyone working on those projects. And so that was why my case was that unique. But that's not the experience of everyone. There are other companies out there that would employ you, and you would not even need a background check. All you need is to have a legal documentation to work in this country legally, and you will have the job.
Yeah. No, that's nice. Good to know. Thanks again, Grace, for coming up to point that out. And nice to know again you are inspired. So, Zelamanya, you are next. Come in, please.
That was a very inspirational one. I actually have no question, but I thought I should come up to congratulate you for your job and for always being committed. Your story is very inspiring, and listening to you makes me feel like I should just step into the market right away, though I still lack some certifications. And yeah, your community ambassadorship is not a hidden thing. You know, you have always been, and your eloquence and your competency as well are very, seen, and you even portray them in the way you put it. And I just wish that we keep it up and support the community spirit. Even though some of us have not yet reached the top, we are looking up to you, and thank you for always coming back to inspire and to motivate, the junior ones, so that we could follow in your footsteps. I think even your traditional title speaks it, that you are not only recognized in the office sector or in the career sector, but as well in the community sector, as you always render services to people wherever you are. Be there for you.
Thank you so much, Zelamanya. I truly appreciate that.
Great. No, thanks. Great. Remember, always the race is for everyone who crosses the finish line. It's not for the first one. So courage again for those still on the race. We'll all get there. So, right. I know I still have some questions. I wanted to go on with Shufaay, but I noticed I'll just take Thierry for the last question, and then Thierry, just come in on with your question. Then I touch a few things with Shufaay, then we'll round it up again with more questions, more opportunities for questions. Thierry, come in.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Shufaay. I really like to thank you for the story. It's really inspiring. That's what it makes us going. So my question is, for the experience you're in your experience in the cloud for this time being, what do you say about the remote roles? Because getting remote roles from Africa, getting remote roles from Cameroon, because at times the location is a challenge. So what do you say as maybe what you have been able to gather from maybe friends you've had that have had roles, that have been able to have roles from Africa, from Cameroon. So that's my question.
Okay. Yeah, thank you so much. That is a very important question. And I think the simple answer is that it's challenging, but it's doable. I currently know of one guy who was recruited by a company in France from Douala. He was working remotely for about 7 months, and then eventually there was need for him to come in person, and he was given a work visa and he flew to France. But he started remotely. He was employed as a remote worker. And I also know of a case here in the United States of a guy in Yaoundé, I believe, who was offered a job here by a company here in the United States, and he's working remotely from Cameroon. I think the only challenge, especially for most people in Africa, especially if you're employed by a company here in North America, is the issue of time, right? Because we are, 6 hours behind? So that kind of messes up with your schedule back home, when people are asleep, that's when you probably be busy at the office. So getting a job, it's challenging, but I think people are beginning to pick up openings. But again, the issue of time difference might be a bigger challenge for people who cannot completely switch their time schedule around them, without being affected, without letting that affect their job performance.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Super. Great. Thanks for that question, Thierry. So going back to our conversation, Shufaay, there are some new people here, and the key point is with your journey, having joined WirfonCloud, had certification, started a job. I'm sure if you look back, there are some key areas you'll see that if I had again to start all over, there are some things I would have done differently. And maybe that can be some information that would be beneficial to most of the newcomers who some of them are starting on the 9th. So, and maybe do you want to touch on advice for newcomers? And then there are some misconceptions or pitfalls that beginners should be aware of. Do you want to just touch on that area, focusing on beginners and especially for those who are still looking also for jobs, maybe some of the things that they should watch out for, right? So can you please just share your thoughts on that? Yeah.
All right. Yeah, thank you, Tam, for me. I think for like every new person going into a new field, it can be really weary and overwhelming, right? But again, at Wirfon, we are not just a community, we're a family. And that should be, they always say, an environment where you should feel more at home than anywhere else. So, looking back at my journey and my experience, if there is one thing that really got me comfortable from the start and gave me what I would term confidence, not just in myself, but in the fact that what I was doing could pay off someday, was the fact that I was going with people. So for me, really, if you are into this and you are new, don't be doing this alone. Be an active participant and an active member of the community. Where there are fears, express those fears and get help. Where there is doubt, express the doubt and get help. And I'm telling you, the Wirfon channels that are on our Telegram, some people do not imagine, you cannot even begin to imagine the store of knowledge that goes through those channels. Make use of them. It's a library like none other. I'm telling you, there are stuff I miss that were public knowledge, but through those channels, I get that information. And then one thing is, and I think this is the most important for me, let a day not go by without you doing something that touches on cloud. It should be like an unending novena. It should be like a prayer that you pray in the morning. Your life should be about it. Force yourself to love it. And once you fall in love with it, I'm telling you, the moment you fall in love with it, nobody would ever convince you to go out of it. It doesn't matter. Even if you are overwhelmed, just 20, 30 minutes of your time in a day is more than enough for you to inspire yourself by just going through some information that relates to what is inspiring you about cloud. And then when it is time for studies, while studying as an individual, be part of group studies as well. I remember one of the skills that I didn't even know I had. When my group in WirfonCloud was studying for the solutions architect exams, we got to a point where, you know, we needed someone to take the leadership. This was something I didn't know I could do. I took leadership. I was coordinating the sessions, you know, and it is opportunities like that that come up in the community that you grab, that begin to shape you, that begin to mold you. And before you know it, instead of being a student, you're gradually becoming a teacher. So really, you couldn't have chosen a better place to start your cloud journey. And Wirfon, I know that you have everything you need. You have all the personal resources that you need. Make use of it. And someday, I believe that not even any distant future from now, we should be sitting here and listening to your own cloud journey and getting inspired. I think that's all I will say on this time for me.
No, great. I mean, you really touch it on for beginners, make this your prayer. Because they say that to succeed in the field of cloud, apart from the commitment, you have to be consistent, right? And consistency is taking a bite each day. Remember, there's just so much you have to learn. When you want to sit and learn everything at one go, that's when the overwhelming is much. But imagine if you decide that, okay, that thing on S3, I've not yet known it. I will just get up this morning and I'm going to focus on 20 minutes to read it again, and then maybe do a lap again on it. Because the good thing is the cloud is not going to change that fast. The change is always going to be minute, that you just know that, for example, S3 before was not always encrypted, but the newer thing now is any bucket you create is already encrypted by default. Those are the kind of changes that happen, which are things that you then just pick and just know what it is. But once you sit down and learn those fundamentals and try continuously, repeatedly to learn them, right? Because we're just trying to be users of the cloud. It's not like we're going to create a new S3 bucket or we're going to design a better S3 bucket. All we're doing is how to use S3. That's all you need. And there is already documentation and steps of how that can do. If you try the first time and you don't remember the second, third time, as we always say, by the fourth time, you'll be doing it. And the important thing which Shufaay also brought in here was taking rules and opportunities, because those opportunities they transform you, right? I think when you started leading the revision for the associate, that kind of transform you because you approach the revision now differently. You are the one going to be looked upon, and I've seen that happen a lot in the community. Those who tend to take rules when they are being mentioned, don't shy away. But when you have that opportunity and you grab it, it starts being transformative, and that helps you in the way you express yourself, the way you talk about the technology. So those are some of the things that I'll emphasize. I know that we already touched on Linux, but in your studies, we never, when you started, we did not even have the Linux, the networking, and some of the things you have mentioned. And I know that you had to invest some time to learn some of those things, but I want you to touch back on the fact that we have now introduced these courses in the community because of the importance that they are. So when you think of the fundamentals, Linux, networking, and Python, how essential are these for beginners that are starting, so to say? What did you say?
I think the importance of this could not be overstated, right? Most applications are built on Linux, So Linux is one of those skills. It's a must-have skill. In my case, and because at the time Wirfon was not offering Linux, one of the things I did for myself to get some of these skills was to invest extra time and money on a boot camp, which we ran for 6 months. And that boot camp was what, really shaped me and molded me with some of these skills that I did not have. And I'm telling you, there is no cloud rule. There is no cloud rule that will not touch on Linux, that will not touch on Python or some sort of scripting, right? You have to know. You don't need to know all of them, but these are like the fundamentals. They are the foundation of cloud. That at some point, when you start launching EC2 instances, you need to know, for example, what command do you need to run in order to update a software that is running on that instance. You need to know all these things. And for me, going that route of, paying for that bootcamp to add to what I had already had in WirfonCloud, and it running for 6 months really molded me. I mean, I remember I was just about finishing that bootcamp when I got this offer. So I think all of that really paid off. And so the fact that WirfonCloud is offering these opportunities now, I would have just one word for you guys. Do not take it for granted. Make good use of it. You are going to need it. It is not a matter of, whether or no, you would need it. There is no cloud rule that you will not need some sort of, except you are doing maybe
Scrum Master.
Scrum Master, yeah, yeah, exactly. Other than that, I don't see any other cloud rule without where these skills will not be employed heavily. So, time for me, you and the leadership at WirfonCloud. Thank you so much for making it possible for these young ones to have these skills all in one place. And I think that for those who are really serious, they might not see the importance of it now, but the moment they will leave here and coming back someday to give these testimonies like the one I'm doing now, I think it would only just be a matter of time. So I will conclude on this part just by saying that they should take it seriously, because it is not whether or, but it is a matter of a must. They need it because there is no job they would do without those skills.
No, great. Thanks for that. I know we're almost going almost an hour now. We had some questions in between, but just to touch now back on, I think everyone should know that Shufaay is here, and I know Shufaay is very open. Even if you reach out to him directly, to maybe he can find time to have a chat with you. We can't discuss everything today, but I would just want to touch on, maybe you want to comment on, now that you're in this space, you definitely, you've talked about networking. WirfonCloud is a community where we are networking. You have expressed the importance of it. But in your own, now working full-time, how are you building, do you have anything to comment on tips on building a kind of a network among those in the tech industry, right? Because we have agreed that the tech industry is something that continues to grow. You can't just, you can't know all, and at times knowing people helps make that easy for you. So I'm sure you definitely building a network in the tech industry. Are there some particular things you are doing in that area, or that you may want to share?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the issue of networking is kind of from community spirit thing, I see, especially you and the leadership in Europe, we keep attending these conferences and getting people, networking with them, and then bringing them right to the platform to come and talk to the young ones and, inspire them. But in my case, I have always believed that, there is no one who is an island, and the saying is no different for anyone in cloud, right? Most of what I have achieved as I go along this journey has been thanks to the fact that I do not just rely not just on what I've been able to gather from Wirfon, but also from my networks outside of Wirfon. And in my current role, one of the ways I do that is we from time to time we do have conferences here and there, even though most of all of them are virtual. But based on my areas of interest, I do try to reach out to, for example, if there was someone who was talking to us on security, and I find that person interesting, and I think that there is something I can learn from that person, the first thing I always do is connect with that person on LinkedIn. I use LinkedIn to network a lot, and because I want it to be very professional, and especially in a world where you never know when people would misinterpret stuff, especially if it was a woman, especially when I'm a man and I see somebody who is a woman delivering on a subject that I think could be beneficial. I want to be interacting with that person and trying to network on a very professional level, because the issue of harassment, not just around, but even in the workplace, is something we always need to be very mindful and careful of. So yes, I do that all the time. And even within the work environment, because our company is very big, we have over 10,000 workers. And so there are times where, we are doing some stuff with folks of my company, but who are working on a different project. But because there is an aspect of that project that is of interest to us, and we are brought together to kind of coordinate. In those coordination meetings, you find people from other areas within the company whom you didn't know, because I work remotely. And, I take those opportunities to reach out and continue to build my network. So networking is very important. It's something we shouldn't take for granted. And then when we attend, if you have the opportunity to attend these physical seminars, like the ones AWS always organize left and right, those are also opportunities to kind of network at a very professional level. And that may also be an opportunity for you to even get somebody who will probably be your route to getting hired, right? So
Absolutely.
There is a lot of importance in networking. It's not just, sharing the knowledge back and forth, but sometimes that may be actually a door that is opening to a career for you to start on. And so networking for me could not be overemphasized.
Great. No, thanks so much. Before we answer the last question, you just mentioned you work remotely, which is something not every industry has, and with your family now. So can you just touch on how that has been helpful to you and the family?
Oh my goodness. I'm telling you that there is an African proverb that a cow without a tail is taking care of the flies on his body by some invisible hand. And I think that has been my case, because I cannot imagine me doing this in person with the kind of family workload I have. The only reason I've been able to do this job is because I'm working from home. And I sit back and I look. Sometimes I still feel, the first few months, I was still feeling like, this is not, for me, it was a dream that I could not probably wake up from, right? There are days I wake up and I'll be like, maybe I'm going to get a call and say, please, can you send back that laptop? We made an error. Yeah, it wasn't really meant for you. And so that has gone on for like what, a year and 3 months, I sometimes walk in my pajamas, which is crazy. And, the comfort of just, having your home to yourself and being able to take care of the baby who is crying and still be able to punch a few things on your keyboard has really been a really rewarding experience. It gives you what we really call a work-life family balance. And you could not get that. I could never get that in oil and gas. In oil and gas, who would give you a job to work? There's nothing for oil and gas remotely to do, right? Everything is in the field. So for me, I could not be happier making this transition at the time when I really needed it the most,
Great. Not nice to hear that. So last comment, any future trends? What are you seeing in the cloud engineering space since technology keeps changing? Do you see any future trends that you can say newcomers should be keeping their eye on?
Yes, absolutely. I think there are two areas stand out, right? Maybe three. I think there is the issue of artificial intelligence. There is the issue of machine learning and data engineering. These three categories are taking the industry by the storm. And so for someone who is really good with data, if you are good at managing data, you know, if you are good at databases and all of that, you know, these three areas may be, especially data engineering and machine learning, because all what machine learning does is make use of that data. And so if you are already at the level where you're able to manage data, these may be areas you should really be thinking of expanding your horizon to. It's paying off. You know, AI and data engineers are paid almost 3 times what a regular cloud engineer is being paid to do. So for people who are coming new and looking to make a leap in the cloud journey, those may be the areas you want to focus on.
Great, great, great. No, thank you, Shufaay. This conversation can go on the whole day. You just make it so great listening to you. And yeah, I think so that we're already above 1 hour, but I really want to appreciate you coming and having this conversation and sharing insights on what your journey has been for this past 1 year. I'm sure we can at least leave it here, knowing that if people have questions, they can always come back to you. But that is it from my own side of the questions. But I know that since you are a family person, if you still have time, if someone has a question that Hera says I'm good at keeping my files very well, so I'm sure you'll get into that field. But if you still have questions, so if you still have questions that you want Shufaay to answer today, please let's just have some of those questions for the next maybe 5-10 minutes before Shufaay leaves us. So please feel free to come in before we round up. If you're not, it's time now for, I know I had Bertrand, I noticed he had left, unfortunately. Okay, I think they need your LinkedIn profile. Shufaay, maybe if you can share that on chat, or I can. Okay, that's good. Yeah, thanks. Okay, that's great. So Shufaay has his LinkedIn profile there for those who need that. And yeah, thanks very much, Jelamanye, for appreciating what we're doing. Thanks. Yeah, Grace, go ahead, please. I see your hand is up.
I want to thank you, sir, Mr. Shufaay. Your story just gave me some kind of inspiration, like awakened my spirit, because this direction of AI was actually, you know, some of us want to get into this cloud stuff, IT, where we are confused at times. Some people will tell you do this one, somebody will tell you do this. It's really giving us headache. Like me, I've been on my way since last year, because at one point I was confused. What do I even go into? So a friend, a senior of mine from Sweden advised me of AI and this database. So you mentioning it today, I'm like seriously excited. I thank you for the story. It's really an inspiration. And being a family person and working and doing this cloud thing, if we don't hear stories like this, it's really overwhelming. I'm working now. I'm a family person. I'm a single mom with kids. It's like hell loose. But this story is just giving me some
Nice.
This story is giving me some courage. And my inspiration or my thoughts are not like getting into cloud after 6 months and start earning millions, but building my IT career even in the next 3 years and stand in a position where I'll be like, all the sufferings are past. So I'm so grateful. I am so inspired. And in fact, I will come for my own testimony too.
Amen.
Grace, that's the way to go.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. And since you have mentioned AI, Grace, just remember Saturday the 28th, someone from AWS, a senior AWS developer advocate, is coming to talk. She has a PhD in machine learning. So she'll be touching this area of machine learning, generative AI and data. So put that on your calendar. I'm sure she'll have some stuff that you appreciate, and everyone, of course. Yeah.
Thank you. That will be good. Since I'm already into the electro-engineering thing, that will be best for me.
That's good. That's good. Nice. So any other question for Shufaay? I see there's not. I got to be the next one telling the next story. Definitely, we are looking for that, Thierry, and we're wishing you the best. I know you've been working so hard. It's going to happen. Definitely, it's going to happen. And I just want to say, I think there are some people that came in and we didn't. Someone joined with 1+. Not sure who that is. Do you want to come in and just let us know who you are? But and then with JA, not sure who that is. But nice, okay, yeah. Okay, no, I think that was really it, and we're very grateful for Shufaay, WirfonCloud ambassador, who has come to really keep us again inspired and motivated, and let us know that this is possible, and that you don't need to have all the cloud certifications to get a job. And again, remember, everyone definitely have, this race is not just for the swift ones. I strongly believe that everyone who is doing the right thing, sooner or later is going to get something. Some people get it fast, some people take some time. Build your fundamental skills. Those are the things that I'm just trying to touch on some of the things that Shufaay did mention. Be a community person, be active, right? When we post things and ask you to do, follow that up. Make sure that you are not just learning the theory, try to practice, right? Hands-on on the labs. Start thinking of your LinkedIn profile. Is it coming up to reflect that you can be a possible candidate for a job interview? Some people are being approached because of their LinkedIn profile. Are you building yours in that manner? If you don't know how to do it, please feel free to reach out to us. We can always give tips, and then when you qualify to attend the entity data sessions, you even have more from that. There are some people who attended that and were able to be able to make their LinkedIn profile look much more better. So, and then with the aspect of learning how to do interviews, these are things that, as Shufaay said, when he was in WirfonCloud, we didn't have this opportunity, but these have been life-changing for so many people. And we can only hope that, yeah, everyone make use of these opportunities. And for all of us, the key thing is for the community to grow. Let each and every one of us have a success story someday. So let's keep doing this. Thanks everyone for coming, and especially to Shufaay. Thank you again. Yeah. So I want to hear some noise or clapping for Shufaay before we go.
Make
I
some
think
noise.
make some noise for Shufaay. Yeah. Thanks everyone. Thanks everyone for that. So yeah. Right, nice. Thanks, Rosemary. Nice to see everyone. So yeah, well appreciated. I'll stop the recording for now.